Feels crooked. Are we crooked? All right. Hey folks, Spencer here. We are in the office today, and I wanted to do a video to address something that happened a couple vlogs ago. Jake and I went kayaking and he went paddleboarding, and we were having the discussion after of I had so much fun. And the reason that I had so much fun is because kayaking is a sport that I can actually physically do. The reason that I bring this up is myself with a physical disability. I live my life trying to be as independent as possible, and I want to identify my privilege in that my physical disability allows me to get out of my chair and walk on my hands, so I can get around quite easily. So I'm very aware that not everybody has that ability to do so. But there's still some things that I can't do, and playing sports is one of them. And I used to dread sports, and the reason I dreaded sports is growing up in school, every single day in gym class, I was always the last person picked to be on a team. I would watch two team captains pick person after person until I was the only one left, and then half the time I would walk over to that team and I would hear people say, "Oh great, Spencer's on our team, we're not going to win today." And so through my peers, I thought, oh well, I don't have any skills that I can offer a sports team, so I must not be an athlete. And from there on out, I dreaded gym class. And it wasn't just in gym class, it was also, we have a family cottage, for those of you that live in Ontario. For those of you that live elsewhere, we call it a cabin, so you choose the name. And we would go there every summer, and my family was really, my dad at least, and his brothers and my cousins were really into like water sports, like water skiing and that sort of stuff. And I like swimming, but I would just sit on the beach and be like, oh man, secretly I wanted to do some of those things. And then one summer, one of my cousins had brought a kneeboard. And one of my uncles was like, I think, Spence, you could kneeboard. You should try it. And I'll never forget, I thought, okay, I was terrified. And the reason I was terrified is I always get super embarrassed because I make a mistake or I get really nervous. I don't have the skills that I think I do. And I get really self-conscious. And then I'm embarrassed. I'm like, I don't want to go through all that, so I'll just avoid doing it. But I thought, you know what? What's there to lose? It's my family. It's not a big deal. So we went in. I went in the water, life jacket, safety first. Take that, Jake, not safety third. I put my arms under the strap on the kneeboard, held the rope. I could sit on the kneeboard. I said, hit it. First time, I got up. We drove around the cove a little bit and came back, and I'll never forget when I got back to the beach. My uncle was like, you could have parked a car in that smile. That was the first time where I was like, hey, I've got some skills. This is pretty cool. Not only can I be an athlete, but like there were things that I could do that I was actually pretty good at. I didn't need knees to kneeboard, I had elbows. And that's where I started to realize that I could play sports. Now again, I dreaded sports, and this was when I was in middle school. I dreaded sports in high school until I decided to try out for cheerleading. Many of you might know my story. I became a cheerleader my last year of high school, and we went on to be state champions. And that was also another time where I thought, okay, I've got skills that I can add to a team by not having legs. I could do handstands and back extension rolls, which is basically a backward somersault into a handstand. That's when I started to realize that, all right, there are things that I can bring to society when it comes to sports. And kayaking was one of those things the other day, where it was something that I could physically do on my own without someone's help. And that was really empowering for me as someone with a disability, is that I could physically do this on my own. And Jake was there and could provide support if I needed it, but I didn't need it. And the guys were really nice down at the kayaking place. They like took me out and they're like, we want to make sure that you can like go around this cove, which they do with everyone. They didn't treat me any different. The one thing that they did do is the guy did get in another kayak with me to just show me a few tricks on how to do it, because with kayaking you have to use your feet for rudders to like move the rudder, and I couldn't do that. So he taught me some tricks with the paddle itself. But I just wanted to give you some perspective, is that, I mean, one of the things that I think, at least for me as someone with a physical disability, I fight for independence all of the time. And I get that quite often because of the nature of my disability, but not always in sports. And so the moral of this story, and the reason that I'm telling you this, is that for a long time I stopped myself from doing things because I listened to what my peers said, and I didn't want to feel that shame or embarrassment. And I missed out on a lot of things that I probably could have been involved in. So now, I try to go for it when I can. Kayaking is one of those things. So the moral of this story is there's a lot of things that we allow to be barriers for ourselves. We listen to other people on the outside, or we even listen to ourselves. We're like, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to put myself out there. And when you do, sometimes you fail, and I've failed before, but every now and then you succeed. And I felt really proud of myself, and it was one of those things where I was like, cool, I can go out with Jake and he can paddleboard and I can kayak and I can still be involved, just in a different way. So I challenge you guys to start thinking about that. What are ways that you can start doing things in a different way, or finding things that you can physically do that you didn't think that you couldn't? Think about it. The more you know. Shooting star.